Good day, everyone. I am Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Malaga fan podcast, The Cast, on Sport Direct Radio, and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. A stalemate at Sanluqueno as Malaga drew 0-0 at El Palmar in a tough game against Atletico Sanluqueno. The second time we have drawn 0-0 with them this season. Not a lot to mull over, really, in this game, as it was an absolute slog of a game, but I'm sure I can fill in some gaps if we need to with talk of my talking about the beer salt in the away end. That was very exciting, and the sort of Mexican wave of people spreading that news around, and the lovely seafood I enjoyed in the town of Sanluqueno. And speaking of fish, I have two fine catches right here in the form of my Cast co-hosts. So I will say good evening, Alex Ashmore.
Good evening, Matt. I enjoyed that intro.
I perhaps will give it a shout out at the end as well. I'm very disappointed to hear you cheating on us with other podcasts this week.
All I can say is I'm sorry, but I will remain loyal to the Cast always.
Yes, I've just realised I can't really say much there. I literally run another podcast. And hello, Nick Bell.
Hello, I'm back. I just disappeared. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're there. You've not disappeared for me. You are very much present and here.
I feel like I'm on one of those Zoom calls from lockdown now. Going, am I there? But no, I'm very well, thank you, Matt. How are you?
I am very good, very good. A busy week, but we are counting down to the next Malaga match day at the end of the week. But that will be in the second episode this week when we do the preview show. So just a quick reminder, we are now at the 2-episode-a-week format. This episode will be reviewing the game, which has just happened this past weekend. So our 0-0 draw with Atletico Sanluqueno. And then later in the week, we will preview our game against another Spanish football team, which I've forgotten. Intercity. We are playing Intercity this week. They just come in thick and fast now. I can't keep up with all these glamorous names I need to remember, such as Intercity, which is still the worst team name. I was going to say the worst team name in world football, but my brother did enlighten me to a team, I think in Malaysia or Indonesia, just called City United. I think that is possibly the worst team name. It's one of those countries. Forgive me, any City United fans that have found their way here.
That kind of reminds me, I don't know if you like when you play those games, those football games that don't have any licenses for the real names, and they try and make up sort of, something that sounds similar. So like Chelsea would be like the London Blues or something like that. And it's horrible.
Well, just again, speaking of other podcasts, the other podcast I do, Platini Played for Kuwait, we did a video game episode. And within that episode, we talked about our love of Pro Evolution Soccer in the mid-2000s. And I did a quiz for Mark, which is I had 10 club names from Pro Evo, and he had to guess the real club. And it proved very difficult for him. I can't remember anything off the top of my head, but let's not get sidetracked too much with that. Go and listen to that episode in your own time. Anyway, let's go back to Malaga Club de Football and very much real teams and real results. We'll obviously talk about our game. I suppose we should mention first, though, that the top two who we are chasing, of course, we are fourth, so there's another team we do need to mention, but the top two dropped points this weekend. Ibiza drew 2-2 with Algeciras. Javi Jimenez getting himself sent off in that game. So that gave us the opportunity to catch up to Ibiza a little bit more. And then Castellón lost the game. Nick Bell, do you want to enlighten me who they lost to? Because I have not written it down and I have forgotten.
They lost to Alcoyano. So they were away in what I assume is somewhat a bit of a stretch of a derby, maybe. But me and Luke will talk about it on Friday. I know we won, was it 3-0 on our visit there very, very recently. But Alcoyano are no slouches at home, and clearly getting a great result against Castellón. It's just a shame that we couldn't knock it down to potentially 6 points. But we're back within 3 games, so it's still not all bad.
Exactly, yeah. So just to give a quick update of the table, Castellón are still top on 60 points Ibiza are second on 56 points, and Cordoba are third on 54, and then Malaga coming in at 52 points. So 8 points away from that direct promotion spot. Alex, should we be looking up there still, or should we just put our heads down and focus on ourselves?
I think more the latter. I think it's obviously disappointing that we couldn't make the most of a good weekend in terms of other results. I think if you look at the other teams, have just got their fixtures up, and obviously there's a big game this weekend, Castellón, Cordoba, and the other games that they've got, Castellón are playing Castilla, Huelva, Intercity, and Granada. Ibiza have got Murcia, Ceuta, San Fernando, Melilla, and Atletico Baleares, and Cordoba have got Castellón, San Fernando, Merida, Castilla, and Alcoyano. So some very, other than obviously Castellón, Cordoba, and maybe Huelva for Castellón, I think all of those are winnable games. So I think, I can only see, unless barring a slip up, because their form's been a little bit irregular, I can only see the three of them pushing on. So Malaga's just got to concentrate on ourselves, and hopefully we can, pick up a win when one of them slips up.
Yeah. Do you want to go any more blue sky thinking, Nick Bell?
Well, I think it's very much to introduce it into being, a bit more of a four-team race. Maybe I wouldn't discount us entirely at all. We're one of the form teams in the league. The form team is just above us. Cordoba are absolutely gunning for it at the moment, and I can see a world where they probably do finish on top of the pile. I think it was yourself who told us, Matt, and I think Luke said to me last week that it was at this time last season that Cordoba were 10 points clear and ended up absolutely bottling it. So maybe it's time for Castellón to have their Cordoba moment, Cordoba to get a bit of redemption, and who knows, it could be Malaga who finish top of the pile, but Ibiza are really falling away at the minute. That's, no wins in 5 for them, or even more than that, I believe. Cordoba just on the tail, us 4 points behind. I think it's all to play for. The most important thing is there's a 12-point gap now between 6th and ourselves. That's a 4-game turnaround. You can pretty much guarantee that we're going to be in the playoff picture come the end of the season. So everything other than that is a bonus.
Yes, and people keep asking me, certainly as the months, as we get closer to May now, like people I work with, are Malaga going to do it this year? And I always say, playoffs, and then always add in, the sort of compulsory, and then it's a lottery. It's, but anyway, we'll talk about the game shortly. Just quick, I thought we'd give a quick shout out to Atletico Sanluqueno, because we haven't really mentioned them for a while, but there was free entry for season ticket holders on Saturday to watch them against Real Jaén, which I was on the verge of going to, but other things came up. And they beat Real Jaén, and they hadn't lost in 13 games, and very much did Malaga's neighbours on the Costa del Sol a lot of, help them out in that league, because Jaén were sort of chasing Torremolinos, who are top, and pulling away from Torre del Mar, but now they've been sort of stopped. Their run of chasing has sort of been stopped now. So Torremolinos are still 9 points clear. Atletico Sanluqueno are still in the playoffs there. So I thought shout out there. Chupete scored, who I feel like he scored a few goals this season. I definitely recognize his name. I think he's been in the match day squad for the senior team, hasn't he? Or have I dreamt that?
He's been in there around a couple of times. I think he was in the match day squad for the game up in Baracaldo as well, if I remember rightly. But yeah, fantastic win for Atletico Sanluqueno. This conveyor belt of talent still keeps me churning out. So, it'd be interesting if they can get themselves to the promotion picture after coming so close last season.
Yes. Just moving away from young players, let's go to old players. Big shout out to Wellington, who has become a manager in Brazil. I believe it's his first job as a manager at America Football Club. I'm sure there's probably a ch sound in there because it's Portuguese, a Futebol Club. I can never do the Portuguese thing, but Congratulations to him. I believe they're in the 4th division of Brazilian football. I did sort of, as of course I did, I looked into who's played for them before. Marcos Senna and Deriva played there. So hopefully, a breeding ground for some good players, and hopefully a breeding ground for a good future Malaga manager, because I believe, Alex, that's always going to be the goal for Wellington. He wants to come back and manage the boys down here.
Yes, well, unless we can prize, we were talking off air, unless we can prize Di Michaelis away from River, or if he goes to Bayern or wherever, we don't have that sort of clout anymore. So yeah, I think Wellington, if he does well, I would love to see him back on the Costa del Sol.
Speaking of ex-players, Alex, I know we were just talking off air about another ex-player who's been, lavishing praise on his time at Malaga and saying it was the best dressing room he was ever in. Ruud van Nistelrooy's had a good start to his managerial career at PSV, and I believe he's not got a job now. But
yeah, I definitely wouldn't say no to that.
Well, if he loved this so much, because he didn't just mention the dressing room in the interview he did. He talked about the food, the barbecues he mentioned, the weather. So if you loved it so much, Ruud, let's not Ruud and come back down here. I know people that knew him down here, and I believe he did love it. But I think you used the word or the term, Alex. We don't have that clout anymore, and we, we're happy with Sergio Pellicer still, aren't we? Are we going to bring up that old argument again? Or
No, I think we can happily bring it up this week, because I don't think any of us Pellicer out. Yeah. I won't lie and say I haven't always been faithful, but as I think he's proven us wrong in more than one occasions, and I think he's for now the right man for the job.
Any thoughts on Wellington and Ruud van Nistelrooy while we've mentioned their names, Nick? And his silence speaks volumes there. Or there is no volume. Nick Bell, I just move in. Do you want to have another go? No, he's still no sound coming from Nick Bell. So I'll carry on asking Alex Ashmore questions, and hopefully Nick Bell finds his voice, or he just really, really has no opinions on Wellington, Ruud van Nistelrooy, or Sergio Pellicer. Alex, this is a good one to throw at you, actually. Anyway, there's it is indirectly linked to Malaga. It's a player born down here on the Costa del Sol, was in the youth team at Malaga. He's a bit closer to you now. Brahim Diaz, who we have talked about on the podcast a few times, he has chosen this week to ditch playing for the Spanish national team for now, and going to play for Morocco. He's been called up to this squad for friendlies against Angola and Mauritania. What's the reaction in Madrid, Alex?
I think more one of, I guess, surprise. The impression I got that he was, waiting for a Spain call up. I think that was his, I think it has been his dream for a while. He played at youth level. I think we talked about a few friendlies that he's played in, or he featured on the bench maybe. And I think, surprise more than anything. But if he gets international football, I'm happy for him. I could quite easily say he's one of my favorite players, and it's good to see him doing so well at Real Madrid, and now reaping the fruits of his hard work and getting an international call up.
Yeah, we should say he has played for Spain before. He played in that weird game against Lithuania. I think it was a friendly during COVID, where I think it was Busquets got COVID, and then they had to get rid of the whole squad. So they brought in an under-21 squad, which he played. I think he scored in that game, actually, if I remember rightly. And he's been in the squad, I think, for some qualifiers, but not played. So he's still eligible to switch, because he is, like I said, he is born in Spain. His mother's Spanish, but I believe his father's Moroccan. So that's how he's got in there. It seems a little bit of a, you've ignored me for 2 years, so I'll show you sort of thing. That's how I've read it. But yeah, whatever floats your boat, Brahim Diaz, and I'm sure we'll wish him well. Nick Bell, do you have a voice?
I think I do.
You do.
I
Welcome
do have
back.
a voice. That's great. Some lessons to be learned here about putting your internet hub behind a mirror. Which shouldn't be happening again. On the Brahim Diaz front, I think is very interesting for him. I don't think he's chosen Morocco over Spain necessarily out of like, well, you're too late to get me type of thing. We've got to remember in 6 years' time, there's going to be a World Cup in Spain, Morocco, and Portugal, and he has the chance to be an absolute superstar as part of it as one of the host nations. So I'm thinking he's thinking this Moroccan side's getting better and better. Got quality footballers. I'm going to go play over there instead. And he's, you watch him week in, week out, Alex, but he seems to be having a pretty decent season for Real Madrid.
He's been fantastic. I think the one thing that maybe is like, and for Real Madrid fans is probably didn't expect him to be a major part of this team, especially coming back from AC Milan. And, obviously with a team that Real Madrid have with, Vinicius, Rodrigo, that attacking force. But, he's made the most of his opportunities, and it's brilliant to see him do well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does, from what I've read, it did sound like Spain were going to call him up for this squad. That is sort of what the reports are saying, but he has shunned them. But obviously, I think the 2 games he's going to play with Morocco are also friendlies. So he just can sample that and then make a decision. Maybe it's an interesting story nonetheless. But we're going to move away from international football, and we're going to go back all domestic and head down the leagues into the gritty domestic football of the Spanish third tier and talk about our 0-0 draw against Atletico Sanluqueno. Just quickly, I will add that I did go to it. Sanluqueno, I listened to your preview show last week, Luke, Nick, and I noticed you sort of said, I think I listened to it not long before I arrived there, and you said it looks quite nice, but you sort of said it looks a bit dull as well. I will say there wasn't too much going on there. It's a bit. I think I said on the Vamos episode I recorded, which I'll talk about later, it's a bit worn and torn, which I quite like. It feels very like of Cadiz. It does feel like that region, obviously, because it's there. I didn't get down to the beach because, that's what it's famous for, the horse racing on the beach, which sounds madness to me. But I stayed in. It was nice enough. It was pleasant enough if you're in the area, especially if you're in Jerez. It's about half an hour up the road. It's probably worth maybe an afternoon. I learned all about the Sherry Triangle, because there's Jerez, Sanlúcar, and somewhere else, and they are called the Sherry Triangle. Good seafood. I had lots of this really famous seafood. I ate shark. I had some nice shark.
Wow.
It's Cazon, isn't it? So it's not real shark. What's it called? It's like
shark.
Yeah, like I was going to say big shark, but I know that's not going to help. But it was very good.
Thanks, Matt. Ruby's crying.
Sorry. And then, like I said, I did do a Vamos episode I've not put together yet. You can listen to the Toilet Paper Odyssey, I'm going to call it. It was there's a teaser for you. What a struggle.
Sounds like there's a lot of parallels between Sanlúcar and Blackpool, so it feels like there'd be a bit of a love in there, maybe, from my perspective. I would just like to apologise because it was only after I recorded the preview show on Friday that I realised that Sanluqueno isn't actually the town that they're based in, so I managed to maybe put a few people off on that one. But I think it's what you expect from these teams, which are based in the peripheries of bigger cities, aren't they? Like you say,
it's very much out there by itself. There's there's Jerez, and then there's a big gap of like nothingness, and then it just sort of appears, and the ground is pretty much the first thing you see as you enter. And yes, it was quite tin pot, but we'll perhaps talk about that. Just quickly, I didn't realize this till I was in the ground. I looked at my ticket. Do you know how much I paid to get into this game?
How much?
The inclination of the question implies more than you thought you should have done.
Absolutely. Because I paid €40 for the Benamiel bus, which was, includes us and the match ticket. So I thought, okay, that's fair enough. The match ticket cost €25. That is madness.
What?
That is mental.
I looked at it.
€5 cheaper than the cheapest Atletico Madrid ticket.
It's crazy.
What?
And I did think, have I just bought? Should I be in the VIP box or something? And then no, I did see a couple of people on Twitter, and I think I saw Bad Charlie did a video saying it's the most expensive in the league so far, because Alcoyano cost 20, which I was a bit like, what? So I don't know if they're putting their prices up now. They're seeing Malaga are bringing all these fans, but yeah, so
it does happen. I think I tried to do an away day once against Honda, and they were trying to charge us €40 for a ticket. It was. Yeah, I think I would imagine it is because Malaga in town. They think, well, we can maybe make a little bit of money here.
Yes, but yeah, that and let's get into it now. We're going to talk about the quality of the game. Didn't really get much for my €25, so we'll start with the starting 11. First of all, I should give a shout out to Nick here, because on the preview show you nailed it spot on. You tapped into Pellicer and got it spot on with David Larrubia coming in as the 10 in place of Manu Molina, who was obviously not as serious an injury as we first thought, but was still rested, be on the safe side. And Danny Lorenzo dropped back a bit. Still no Roberto, of course. Again, it sounds like he's sort of fine now, and they sort of played it safe with him. And like you guys spoke on the preview show, I thought Musa would start, but I did want David Larrubia to start, because I think he'd earned his chance. Perhaps we can talk about his performance as we go through this. Alex, obviously Nick expressed that this was the team he thought and would like to see last week. Were you happy with this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, maybe without Dione and you put Roberto in there, I'd say other than that, that's probably our strongest team. Obviously, with the injuries that we have at the moment, I think, obviously putting Ramon in there would improve it a lot, I think. Maybe Haitam. But, I think out of the players we got available, I think that's probably our strongest. Minus, I'm forgetting, for those of you who are just listening, Nick is mouthing Manu Molina at me. I think...
Alex.
Say again.
Just show some respect. Man's got game.
I think barring minor changes, I think that's one of the strongest sides that we could put out.
Yeah, and just going to something you said on the preview show, Nick, that I think you compared the potential of Musa playing in midfield as a prime Ndiaye, and I was just thinking, no, if Musa's going to do it, it's the John Stones role. He could be our John Stones, the one that walk from centre back into centre midfield. That's where I saw him. But was you, obviously we'll talk about the performance in a second. Happy to see this team, Nick?
Yeah, I seriously tapped into my very own Sergio Pellicer, as I coined on Twitter at the weekend for this one. I just thought it was obvious with, the way that David Larrubia had been playing off the bench recently. The trust that he's got in Dan Lorenzo, he's only got a certain amount of holes which he can bang in some round pegs. So I think there's, like Alex says, with injuries considered, this is possibly the strongest 11 that we could have played anyway. So yeah, it was to be expected.
Yeah. Just before we talk about the football, then I just thought I'd flag up some things which I'm sure people might have seen on social media, especially like the Frente Boquerón and Malaga Hinchas, I think, posted sort of statements about it. I would say, I know the sort of silly slogan I've gone with this season is I just want it to be fun, and it has been fun. This was probably less fun in regards of attending a game. The stewards were like really sort of in our faces, and then the police were very heavy-handed in this one. I've not seen it quite like that at the Malaga game, where they put us on a scaffolding, so people were sort of, there wasn't much room on there, so people were standing up, and then the stewards decided they wanted everyone to sit down, and everyone was like laughing, and then Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was something to do with chants about Jose Maria, because it seemed to be when that started. All of a sudden, the Frente Boccarone all got marched out. Like I said, there was a bar behind the goal, or at least a tap with beer coming out of it. It was, just one tap, and people. Yeah, there were some people drunk, and they were then ripped out of there. And I was thinking, oh crikey, I had a bit to drink, and I thought I better be careful here. I did get threatened with getting thrown out because there was one porter cabin, so everyone pissed against the wall, and that's not great, but there really wasn't much choice. And some guy came over and did a sort of slap on the wrist gesture to me, and said,
didn't you have a pitch side beer though with Bad Charlie?
Well, I had pitch side beers, yeah. So there was it was quite, because there was a big queue for the toilet, because like I said, there was one toilet, but not much of a queue for the bar. And it was quite funny because I went in like halfway through the first half when I realized this game was going to be awful. And the guy said to me, like, sin alcohol? And I was like, no, con alcohol. And he was like, de verdad? And I was like, yeah, en serio. And he was just like, he's like, is this guy serious? And he came back and he was like, thumbs up, and he's like, alcohol. And then he told his mates, and this sort of wave of there's beer here sort of happened. And then obviously that meant there was more of a queue for the toilet, and it led to more people pissing against the wall and this security guy running around. But yeah, it was just a bit of a shit show, I thought, in the away end. It wasn't as nice. And obviously the game probably didn't help there. I just thought, sort it out, Sanluqueno. It wasn't, it just was not very nice in there. And no one was causing trouble, I don't think. I suppose pissing against a wall could be seen as. So yeah, I am a yob. I'll just put I went out the way. I didn't sort of, just open myself up or anything. The game. Nick, tell me about the start of this game. Did you just think early doors, this is going to be rubbish?
Well, as you know, I didn't actually watch the game at the time because it was Mother's Day in the UK. My wife is a mother, therefore we need to make sure that she's looked after. We've got to go and see our various mothers as well. So there was a lot of mothering going on Sunday. So I actually watched this game afterwards, knowing full well what had happened. So talked about glutton for punishment. It was poor. It was, there's no other way to describe it. It was poor, it was slow, it was lethargic, not much happening. For a team that have got so many namesakes that we discussed, which sounds so exciting, Guti, Calderon, Joaquin, you'd think, actually, this could be quite fun, but it was just a bit of a bore fest, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the queue for the toilet did look more inviting sometimes, just to get away from being pitch side. Alex, what did you make of the performance? Because I'll be honest with you, in regards of like sort of flash points to discuss here, we don't really have much until the end. So run free, say what you want.
So it was sort of just 2 hours before the Real Madrid game, so I was watching it, and kind of about 15 minutes in, I was like, I'm going to have to put the Liverpool game on the side. So I had the Liverpool game and the Malaga game, because there were periods of the game where I was like, this is a struggle. And not the best. I watched the highlight package back afterwards just to sort of, jog my memory again. And the highlight package makes it seem like a really entertaining 0-0. Like, it makes it seem end to end, shots everywhere. But I don't know. It just felt very, I don't know what the word really is. Just sort of.
I'll tell you, because I think Nick, you said on the preview show that Atletico Sanluqueno are going to try and stifle us, and to be honest, the whole game just felt stifling. That was the one word I could think of with it. Just us. The atmosphere felt stifling. It just wasn't fun. And like, there was even like parts, like, because we were behind the goal and had a bit of a net up, we couldn't see great, and I'm just like, oh, I'll just go back to the bar. I'm not really, I know where this is going. It just felt like a 0-0 from the very start. Of course, they had a couple of good chances at the start. They had that sort of header at the near post he put wide, and there was the guy that sort of broke down the left, and I think he smashed it over. I don't think Herrera saved that one. I suppose the one real moment of quality for us was Gennaro, or should we say Gennaro, as they spelt it on one of the team sheets? I think it was it the FAFA TV? Did you see that? They spelt it with a J.
I didn't know.
They like to spell it however they just put whatever they want there sometimes, to be honest with you. Never makes any sense.
But he had that amazing, like really good. I think it was Ferreiro that played it off to him, and he ran onto it and he hit it perfectly. And you could see he was pretty much starting to celebrate when he hit it, I think, and it was a great save from their goalie. But again, tell me, am I forgetting anything else to happen in the first half?
No, I mean,
no, not really. It was poor. Neither team could really get their foot on it more than anything. It was kind of felt like a bit of a, not an end to end in the exciting way, didn't it? It just kind of felt like, we're going to clear it. No, we're going to clear it. No, have it back. No, we don't want it. You have it back.
Yeah.
And I think we really missed here someone with world-class ability to put their foot on the ball, tempo in midfield, and run a game, basically. That's what Malaga didn't have, as much as Danny Lorenzo tried to be the Manu Molina role. He just hasn't got that same ability, and again, I think we missed Danny Lorenzo in a forward role as well.
Yeah,
he was as ineffective as most because he wasn't doing what he does best. So you could even say the same about Ferreiro, who we've been waxing lyrical over for the last few weeks. He was not as effective as usual. So everyone really seemed off kilter and out of sync with each other in this first half, especially.
Yeah, because I actually thought maybe the first 10, 15 minutes, I thought, oh, Kevin looks like he might be the one to do something. But even he just sort of, I think he just sort of got the sort of, all right, is this sort of game? And then he sort of, as the game went on, he sort of just got quieter and quieter. And I agree. I think, like we said the week before, him and Danny Lorenzo were bouncing off each other really well the week before. And I think he got a bit isolated out there by himself as well. So, yeah, there's, like you said, I think Danny Lorenzo was probably the one pushing for things to happen a bit more. But yeah, obviously, again, I think they hit the post in the second half, didn't they? I couldn't tell. Did Herrero save it?
It wrapped around it. It hit the post behind the post, if that makes sense.
Oh, did it?
But it looked, for all intents and purposes, like a fingertip save, like Herrera pushed it around the post, but he didn't quite make it. But again, we've praised him so many times this season to really getting us out of the shit. And Herrera, it's in a couple of times this game. They weren't the world class saves where we've seen him palm it from a point blank header, but he's kept us in the game, more importantly, because this is the kind of team, especially at home, would quite happily shithouse themselves to a 1-0 win. Snatch and grab.
Just quickly, I've just noticed this. You were talking about the names on their team sheet, Nick. I was just sort of checking our subs and quickly glanced at their team. I've just noticed they've got a player called Vacas and a player called Cotijo. And if I'm right in saying that's cows and farmhouse. Am I right there, Alex?
Yeah, Vacas is cows. And we'll take your word on that one, because I don't actually know the direct translation of Cortijo.
Well, me and Luke were saying that some of the players in the Sanluqueno squad sound like, not to hark back to the conversation we had before, but like FIFA regens or Football Manager regens, where you get like slapped up weird names. Just they've picked random Spanish words out of a book and gone, right, put them together. That's now a player. I think Nacho Ramon up front was one of those that we picked out. But I think, what was the other one? Is it Juan Rojas or Joan Rojas, whatever he was called?
John Rojas Castilla, Joaquin Gonzalez.
Yeah, which I assume it translates to English is John Red. Is that right?
Yeah.
Lewis Cows is definitely my favourite of them.
I was disappointed not to see Mwepu. He played, quite well in the last game, and that's how sort of boring the game was at parts. It could have been nice to see some action, I guess, really.
There you go, Alex. I can teach you some Spanish. Cortijo is farmhouse.
Farmhouse, yes. No, I sort of have heard the word before, but couldn't remember
Well,
what it meant.
what the Malaga fans have been chanting at, the farmhouse is in the people upstairs, isn't it? I don't know how you would translate that into English when they talk about brackets, the farmhouse of like Jose Maria. And
is that them doing the Spanish version of My Garden Shed is Bigger Than This?
Well, I've also learned something there, because that must mean El Cortillo de Pepe means the farmhouse of Pepe. There we go. We all love El Cortillo de Pepe.
I think it's quite a flexible noun. I think it's used for a few things. But yes, I suppose so. Where did I go to it? No, I didn't. I was going to say I went to El Cortillo de Pepe before this game, but I didn't. That was the week before. Ignore that. So I don't know, second half, I think on the podcast a few weeks now, I've said I've been really happy with Pellicer's substitutions. On paper, I wasn't particularly dismayed by any of them here, but I don't think anyone came off the bench and did well, did they? As Aviles came on for Dione, Juanpe for who did Juanpe come on for? La Rubia, I think. Juan Hernandez for Herrero and Danny Sanchez for Victor. I don't know, guys. You watched on TV. I was not in the best position to watch this game. Did anybody make an impact from the bench?
I think, and this is sort of, I didn't really see loads, but I think this was a sort of game that was calling out for someone like an Aaron Ochoa Maloney or an Ethan Marino, just to chuck them on and see if they can do something. They're young, fearless. I guess you could say fearless, but they've shown in multiple games where they have that sort of quality where they can just do something. And I feel like it's worth a punt, because we were drawing. Dare I say, they probably weren't too bothered about getting the 3 points, and I feel like it was crying out for one of those two.
And Aaron as well, or Aaron Ochoa Maloney. Sorry, I think I don't know if you read. Of course, I read it repeatedly. Kevin's interview in Malaga this past week, and he said about Aaron, he said, I really like him. He's tough, like he's good, but he's tough. And I think he would have sort of suited this game, actually.
Yeah.
But let's get on to it quickly to start. There's not a lot else to say about this game. There was sort of controversy around the penalty towards the end. Aviles was fouled in the box. I'll just say my bit now. I can see why it might be given as a penalty, but I don't think I feel as strongly as a lot of people do about it. I saw Pellicer called it I think he said like a textbook penalty. I think, Nick, you suggested you might have similar views to me.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a penalty in my book, just for the way that Aviles has gone into the ball, really. It had escaped him before the challenge had come across. Don't get me wrong, it is a bad challenge, but it's not in Aviles' control. Again, for this whole second half, Aviles feels like a player that Pellicer doesn't really know what to do with him. Bringing him on for a whole half and playing him as a 10 when he's a number 9, or at least wears the number 9, feels very, very strange. But I personally wouldn't have been too bothered. I'm not bothered by this penalty not going our way. A lot of people obviously made their feelings known, but for me, it's nothing.
And Alex, just before we press record, you said that there's news that Malaga might be appealing this, or put in not appealing, like I don't know what you'd say, stating their annoyance to the official bodies.
Yeah, so we've done, I guess, what you would call like an official complaint, as Premier League sides have done to the PGMOL. We've done it to the Spanish equivalent, the CTA, which is the Comité Técnico de Árbitros. So, I don't think, like you said, I don't think anything's going to come of that. But Kike Perez was saying that Javier Aviles got injured from that, and that's obviously makes it a clear penalty. But I think I'm with Nick on this one. I don't think it was a penalty. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was given, but I think it was soft.
Yeah. I think if it came the other way around and it was Einar had gone through one of their strikers with the ball that far away from, I would have been very, very annoyed if that penalty had been awarded against me. And Alex, you've got to call him Pugmol. Come on. Yeah. When do we have a chance to say Pugmol on the podcast? That was your opportunity.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, so I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add about the performance overall. I did like Malaga Hoy's headline. So I learned another word in Spanish from them this week. They called Atletico Sanluqueno our kryptonita, which I'm guessing is kryptonite. So
yeah, proper bogey team, aren't they? But
yeah, I'm not like bogey teamers. They're just annoying. They're just really annoying. But shout out, I know you mentioned it, Nick. I was up close and personal with the home shirt because we were queuing by the club shop, and it is indeed a very nice one. But yes, the badge does look like bad AI. Okay, let's go into
on the similar topic of words that you liked in that article. I don't know if you remember the bit. This is one for you, Nick. It basically saying we were lacking two of our motors. Well, two of our pillars: the motor that is Manuel Molina and the killer that is Roberto.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. And not to go back to the substitutions thing early, but the fact that they didn't bring on someone like Aaron Ochoa Maloney, instead choosing to hook La Rubia for Aviles and then bring Juan Hernandez on as a striker for half an hour. Just again, the substitutions have been great in the last two games. This one, it just kind of felt like he was plucking him out of a tombola just to see like where he could fit people in again. It's two steps forward, one step back for me on the Pellicer front.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get stuck into our jumbos. I'll just go first. I'll say my two. I think I hadn't really decided which one to go with. The two names I wrote down were Victor, because I thought they were getting quite a lot of joy down the left, especially in the first half. And I don't think he perhaps backed up Kevin as much as he has in the past, and sort of that made Kevin a bit redundant. But I thought David Larrubia did not take his chance here. I thought he was not very good, and he was anonymous, and I was really disappointed with him, basically. So I'm going to pick David Larrubia. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I think the two of those, Dione, I don't think I saw a great deal from. I really wish he would take games like this by the scruff of the neck and get a brace or score a goal, just really stamp his authority on it. But yeah, disappointing all round, really. But yeah, I'm going to go with Victor. I feel like not up to his usual self, and I could quite happily say he's been one of our strongest players this season. But yeah, it wasn't his best game.
Yeah, and what about you, Nick, for your chumbo?
Yeah, I think, like say, the honourable mentions for the likes of the only, again, not putting the shift in compared to Roberto. I think Victor Garcia was probably on the end of their best performer as well, in my opinion. I thought Guti was having a right good time down that right-hand side. A lot of success for him. For me, it's between Larrubia and I know we're not in the business of giving chumbos to substitutes, but Juan Hernandez had a good, 20 odd minutes to impress or to do anything. And he was just absolutely turgid. And it just feels like when we bring him on at the minute, we're going down to 10 men. So for that, I kind of want to sway towards Juan Hernandez, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, as I said to you at La Rosaleda the week before, I want to have an opinion about you, Juan Hernandez. I have no opinions about you because you're a non-entity. And yeah, I think the opinion is now he is not having much of an impact. Again, this is a tough one for Biznaga. I think we've mentioned his name. So again, I'll just say it. The only one I thought that looked like he might do something was Danny Lorenzo. I thought he was good, or the best of a bad bunch across all 22 players. I thought Kevin started the game well, but like I said, went a bit quiet. I think they would, but yeah, I literally couldn't really give anyone else a shout out. I don't know about you, Alex. Have you got a different Biznaga or anyone you can give an honourable mention to? Alfonso Herrero as well was fine.
I think just through lack of inspiration, especially in the midfield, I'm going to give it to Alfonso Herrero. I think when he was called upon, he did his job, and we obviously a far cry from it yet. But I do think when it comes to the end of the season, we look back at some of these games, he'll be the reason we are where we are, because there's been multiple games where we perhaps deserve to draw or lose. and he's kept us in it. And I think he was his usual self. For large parts of the game, he didn't have to do a lot, but I think he never. I can't remember any mistakes he made. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Alfonso Herrero.
And finally, Nick, your Biznaga.
Yeah, it was very much a game for goalkeepers, in my opinion, not because they were, saving things every 2 seconds, but in this kind of match, you've got to keep your concentration when you stood there for, a good 20 minutes and then something happens. You've got to be able to react. And Herrero was called upon just a couple of times, but when he was matching them. So for me, Herrero.
There you go. It's not the first time or the last time he has claimed the most Biznagas, I imagine. But yes, we have made it through that slog of a game, 0-0. Let's hope we don't have to play Atletico Sanluqueno next year, but there is a good chance we could end up playing them again. Let's just annihilate them next time. I don't like them. And even just quickly, like going back to the whole thing of having fun, this was the first time I've been in the away end, and I don't know what prompted it, but people were doing the whole British sort of, giving each other the wanker signs, fans, and I don't know what their fans were chanting something which I didn't quite catch, and yeah, so it was the first time there wasn't that sort of, not like Alcoyano when we were singing Alcoyano during the game, like the away end was. But yeah, that's that game done. We have the preview show coming up later in the week. I'm not sure who's going to be on that yet. So that's a nice surprise for you, isn't it, to find out who's going to line up. A couple of things to plug. I will do a Vamos episode. It's, it was from this weekend. I just haven't had a chance to put it together. Malaga Gaga's written. That will be out within the next few days or this week. Alex, do you want to give a quick shout out to the podcast you did this week? And I believe you're going to carry on doing.
Yeah, go on then. I've started, along with a few colleagues of mine at university, a podcast called Football Nostalgia. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of different things. But the first season is determining our best Real Madrid 11 of all time. And the first episode is out. The goalkeeper pick has been made. And, I won't say who it is, but go and give it a listen. And, expect more fan interviews, journalist interviews, and maybe some ex-pros in there.
Ooh, do you know what? I've decided that me and Luke Chambers are going to start a podcast as well, because we feel we're like the only ones who haven't got extracurricular activities outside the Giri cast now. So we feel a little bit left out. So I think we settled on a podcast name, which was The Other Side of the Pennines. I think that sounds like a good northern-based football podcast. Let's do it, Luke. Let's have our moment in the sun.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a quick pun with Chambers and Bell, but I'll think. Yeah, okay, that sounds good too. We look forward. Shout out to the podcast. It won't get off the ground.
It's very much in the development. It's on paper.
Anyway, that is the end of this our usual podcast, the best podcast we all do. I will say thank you, Alex Ashmore.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, a more exciting review next week after Malaga thump Intercity. So, vamos Malaga.
Indeed. And thank you, Nick Bell.
Thank you very much. It'll be very exciting to welcome Intercity into a city, because I think we made the connection last time out then when you were going to go and see them that they don't play in the city, they play out of the city. So it'd be interesting to see them playing in the city.
Oh, won't it be interesting? Well, I hope it'll be interesting. I can't get any worse this past weekend. But thank you guys for listening, and do all those things we say to do, like retweet the podcast, tell your friends about it, share it about, leave us a 5-star review maybe on your podcast platform, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I've been Matt Harrison. You've been listening to the Giri Cast on Sport Direct Radio and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. Adios and vamos Malaga.